I'm Catherine Arndt, the Chief of the VLGA Connect studio. Welcome to today's episode, brought to you by the VLGA, your councillor support network and the national broadcaster on all things local government.
Hello everyone, welcome back to VLGA Connect, and it's time for our first local leaders interview for 2024. We're hoping to do a few of these in the lead up to council elections in Victoria, which are of course coming up in October. And I don't know why it's taken so long, but the good news is we're finally sitting down for a chat with the four-term Mayor of Horsham Rural City Council, Councillor Robyn Gulline. Robyn, lovely to see you and welcome.
Thank you, Chris. It's lovely to be here.
We've crossed paths, of course, around the sector. We've never actually sat down in this sort of environment for a chat. So looking forward to finding out a bit about what's led to your stellar local government career. I'm correct in saying you're serving your fourth consecutive term as Mayor at the moment?
Yes, first term councillor, four-time Mayor.
That's incredible. Was that the plan when you first decided to run for council? Did you want to actually be the principal spokesperson and head of the council for an entire term?
I told the councillors right from the start that I was prepared to sit in whichever seat they wanted me to, for as long as they wanted me to. Initially they did say, look, maybe you can do the whole term, but
Yep.
I wasn't sure. As I said, I'm happy to sit in whichever seat. It's just an honour to be a councillor and represent our community, and it's even a greater privilege to be the spokesperson for our council.
And of course, as you say, you've got to get elected first, and then you've got to see who else is sitting around the table and how you as a collective group of councillors want to approach the term ahead. Talk to us a bit about taking on the role of Mayor for the first time. Were you daunted by it at all?
Yes and no. I'd had the previous 5 years working in regional advocacy. I'd been on the regional partnership, I'd been on Regional Development Australia Grampians, I'd been on the WGA, I was president of the VFF Industrial Association, I was on Farm Safe Australia, I was chair of partners in ag. So I'd done lots of things. I'd been around the government, so I knew a lot of the players in the region. I knew a lot of the key issues. So yes, I had to learn council speak, but I had a fair idea what I was coming in for. So no, I wasn't overly daunted. I suppose right at the beginning, the thing that got me, someone had asked me a question, and I'd go to speak, and I'd suddenly doubt myself.
Yeah.
And I, but yes, it probably took me a few months to get over that, the fact that, I actually did know it, and to stop doubting myself. So now I know if I know it, and I know if I don't. So I do try to have a really broad grasp of the issues, and try and remember as much detail as I can, so that if anyone asks me any question anytime, and that's the beauty of being the mayor, you never know what question you're going to be asked by members of the public or by the media or whoever, or the minister or whoever. At whatever time, you need to have the information at your fingertips. So that's probably been the thing I've worked on the most, making sure that I do have the knowledge just there at the tip of my fingertips. I mightn't be able to remember your name, but I'll remember your life story, and I'll be able to provide a whole range of information for you.
You talk about doubting yourself. It sounds like you're describing what's, I think, commonly known as imposter syndrome, which a lot of first-time leaders go through. Did you recognise that for what it was at the time? Is that what it was, imposter syndrome?
Can't say I ever really I can't say I ever really stopped to analyse it. I suppose I as soon as I'd go and look at the information, I go, I knew that. So it was really just that, just it was more a confidence thing, confidence that I knew what I knew and knew what I didn't know. Get over that self-doubt. So no, look, it took me maybe 3 or 4 months, but once I got over that, knowing that I really did know what I was talking about.
So given that extensive community involvement that you had before you ran for council, I'm assuming, was this the first time you ran for council and got elected? Yes.
Correct, yes.
Why so long to take that step?
I was asked in 2012 if I would consider council. Then my husband became ill, so that was taken off the table. He passed away at the end of 2013. So at the beginning of 2014, I said to my father-in-law, I'll take you to the local VFF meetings. I took my mother-in-law to the local genealogy meetings because the children are away at school, so I was home alone. And our former CEO, Peter Brown, was at a VFF meeting, and you know, I was probably one of 3 women in the room, and he was here talking about the budget. And I've got an accounting background, so I was, you know, providing explanations to those in the room who didn't understand what he was talking about. And he rang me up just after it and said, "Would you like to stand for RDA?" And I said, "What is it?" And he said, and I went, "Oh, okay." So I nominated for that and was successful. And then he said to me, you know, about partnerships, would I be interested? And I went, "Oh, okay." So I nominated for that. And again, I was successful. And then he said, "What about council?" My children were just finishing school, heading to uni. There were health problems, and I was case in 2016. Yeah, still not quite the right time for me, my family. I'm managing director of our family farm. So, you know, I just couldn't juggle another thing at that point. Come 2020, the taps on the shoulder were getting more and more persistent. The children were much more settled. I was much more confident in running again, that confidence, much more confident in my ability to manage our farm business. I finally said, okay, I would stand. So that's why it took me so long to actually get to that point.
So once you did and you ran, you were elected, and as we've said, became mayor in your first term. Did the reality of being a councillor match the expectation that you had?
I think because I'd been around enough, I'd been involved in the partnership and involved with, and I knew a few councillors. My dad was a councillor when I was a child growing up in Queensland, so very, very different. But he had 2 terms on council, so you know, I grew up in that environment. He was a member of Lions for, I think we're up to 65, 70 years or something. So I grew up in that environment. So, you know, service to the community has been what's dominated my entire life from before I was born. So, you know, I just do what I'm asked to do. I've been given skills. I've been given opportunities. I'm highly educated. I'm a teacher by trade, and I've done a lot of external and online studies. So, I have great skills. So yeah, I really wasn't daunted by being a councillor. It really is what I thought it was going to be, but only because of the experiences and the interaction I'd had with government at all tiers.
Were there any particular issues or concerns that you were hoping to address by becoming a councillor? No?
No. My commitment to the community was good governance.
Right.
That I would take on board every issue that came to us, and I would, put my teacher hat on, do a SWOT analysis, look at the advantages, disadvantages. Is that the only way? Is that the best way? And so, no, I committed to delivering to our community what they had asked for. We've got so many plans and strategies, and we've done community engagement very well for a long time. My commitment was to deliver what the community wanted. I actually don't believe it's appropriate for a councillor to come in and commit to delivering something. Our job is to deliver for the community what the community says. So no, my outlook and my attitude was very different, and I can hand on heart say that I have made every decision in good faith. It has been making sure that everything's followed the process. So this good governance, what is good governance? It's not about the decision, it's about the process involved in getting there, and doing what our community wants, listening to the community. And listening to the community is actually listening to all voices, not just the loud voices. We ask for community feedback. Sometimes we'll get 3 or 4 responses, formal responses, but then I have people stop me on the street who would never in a million years put in any formal feedback, but who provide quiet feedback. And I think all councillors are, have an obligation to listen to all members of the community, regardless of how they choose to provide feedback.
Terrific. I was going to ask you, what does good governance mean to you? You've asked it and answered it very well. What is your hope for this election year in terms of the next generation, I guess, of local councillors? Because I did note when you accepted the mayoralty for the 4th term, you did talk about, I think, asking people to get ready to run this year. What's your hope for the election process in Horsham?
So last time we had 9 people put their hand up for 7 spots.
Mm.
And that concerns me. That really does concern me. I do want our community to have choice. So council's going to run a community leadership program that VLGA are going to run for us starting in April. And the idea is to actually help community understand what local government mean, what the role and responsibility of council and councillors is. There is a genuine misunderstanding in the community about what the role of council and councillors is. And I found that during the campaign in 2020, and I actually tried very hard in the first year or 2 that I was mayor to enlighten people, to help them understand. But I still see a great deal of misunderstanding about what the separation of roles are between the 3 tiers of government. When I say, that's not my responsibility, that's the state, I'm not deflecting. That's actually the reality of where the decision lies. And if I try to interfere, I'm very politely told to get back into my sandpit and play where I'm required, and leave that to somebody else. So I think there is a really good opportunity through this community leadership program for more education in the community, whether these people ultimately choose to stand this time, next time, or at some point in the future. They, through greater understanding, will help that education process in the community. When I read the monitor reports that keep appearing in the sector, and they keep saying councillors still don't understand their role. Good governance is a problem. So it's not unique to any one community. It is across the board that there is a genuine misunderstanding about what the role of, what's the difference between an operational question and a strategic question? So within the training for the government, I was on the mayoral panel, the local government ministerial mayoral panel a couple of years ago, and we were talking about the training, and I said it needs to be more explicit. You actually need to say your role is strategic. These are the sort of questions that you should be asking. These are the sorts of questions you should not be asking. But if that's information you want to know, this is the way you go about asking it. So, it's how you frame the question as to how you get the information that you require. Making sure you're not telling the staff how to do their role is a really, really important aspect of the Local Government Act that we need to consider. And it's very easy when you start delving down that rabbit hole of operational questions that you start telling people and questioning their competence to perform their role. And it's really, really important that we lift our eyes as councillors and we stay in our strategic role.
Very well said, but there are people out there who are, I guess, prosecuting an alternate view, almost ignoring what the legislation says and pushing this idea that councillors should be getting more involved in those issues. How do you think we deal with that? On one hand, there's a lack of understanding, but on another, there's a blatant lack of acceptance of how the system is meant to work.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose I do have concerns about the legislation, and I'm pleased the minister's going to make some changes. I'd probably go a little bit further than she plans to, but that's okay. I suppose my concern is at the moment the integrity agencies are actually hamstrung. You know, we have an act, but there are actually very few breaches of the act that actually impose penalties. So, you know, in my mind, if I breach the act and I do something that the act explicitly says I'm not to do, that to me should be misconduct. And there should be penalties, you know, that the inspectorate follows up. I, as a councillor, shouldn't have to prosecute that case that one of my fellow councillors has done X, Y, Z and go through the conduct panel process. If there's a clear breach of the act, you have, you know, gone down that rabbit hole of, you know, interfering in operational matters, you're trying to, you know, interfere in the CEO's role, they are clear breaches of the act and they should be seen as clear breaches of the act. So, you know, to me, there should be a modification in the act that says, you know, if you breach any of the clauses of the act, that is actually, you know, misconduct and is considered a breach under the act. And I think that would actually clean up a lot of the misbehaviour and the frustration of other councillors as well in the sector. I mean, I speak to councillors and mayors from every council, you know, on a regular basis, and there is frustration that you can blatantly get away with anything because the process is so difficult to get through. It causes so much conflict. When you get councillor taking on councillor, that causes conflict that isn't necessarily, well, it's not a good thing. So if it was independently assessed by the inspectorate as, you know, a breach, it takes the councillors out of the argument. I think that would certainly help relationships.
So, you know, seeing as we've gone down this path of conduct reforms and we're talking about encouraging people to put their hand up for council, do you worry that this focus on conduct and this conflict that's playing out at not all, but it feels like an increasing number of councils, that it's putting off people from wanting to become involved in local government?
Oh, I've approached many people in our community about putting their hand up, and they've said, we've seen what you've gone through, the abuse that you are copying on social media. I don't read social media. I have no idea what they're saying, but apparently the commentary about me has gone from personal and nasty to vile and revolting. Have no idea what it is, but apparently. And they say, we see what they're doing to you. Why would we want to do that? So it is deterring good people from, particularly women. These are more women saying that. They just couldn't cope with that personal abuse. I don't read it, so I've got no idea what they say. But people who do watch it, you know, just give me the general gist. So, you know, and that's a concern. So, you know, and then you come in and the media try to portray that anytime there is a split vote, they try to portray it as division. I'm sorry, you've got 7, 9, 10, however many people, councillors elected to make a decision. It's actually okay to have a difference of opinion. It's actually okay to disagree. Doesn't mean I don't like you. I just have a different opinion on this particular matter. And I have a problem with the fact that that's portrayed as division and you're divided the minute you have a difference of opinion. And that I find that quite frustrating because, you know, we are all entitled to an opinion. I've been abused for daring to have an opinion. I've had members of the public scream at me, you know, you're not listening. You know, I'm listening, I just don't agree. And, you know, and that's okay. I've got all the information you don't. So I think social media and the media, they seem to enjoy this perpetuation of conflict and chaos and division. I just want to get on and make decisions for my community, whether I agree with my councillors or not. As mayor, I have to show up, and we have 3 radio stations and 3 local papers. So, you know, I do interviews with all of them. We have 5 local papers a week. So, you know, we are very heavily scrutinised, and whether I agree with the decision of council or not, as the mayor, I have to prosecute the argument and explain to the community why we've made the decision that we've made. And that's not being disrespectful to either side. That's just the reality. We live in a democracy where majority rules, and it doesn't matter which side of the majority I'm on, in which side of the argument, I need to prosecute the side that the majority chose to vote for. So yeah, look, it's a challenge, I think, and I'm not sure that as a society we're going to get past that. Locally, there is, I'm hearing this pushback against that division and that nastiness, saying, you know, just stop. I mean, I was told in 2020 people were fed up with the nastiness and that, and you know, and I'm hearing that again now. Just stop it. You know, you're entitled to your opinion, but so is everyone else. So back off. Stop calling people names. I mean, year 5 debating, you know, the minute you got personal, your team automatically lost. We need to get back to proper debating, debate the facts and stop the personal abuse and personal attacks.
Yeah, here, absolutely right. And sadly, it's always been the case, particularly with mainstream media, that you don't have a news story without conflict. So that gets played up, as you've rightly pointed out. You talk about not reading social media. That's obviously a very simple tactic one can do to try and keep perspective and balance. What else do you do away from your council role to keep that balance?
I run our family farm. I have children. I have elderly parents and elderly in-laws. I read. I do family history. I don't really have a lot of spare time. So I do try and switch. I find my brain just spins nonstop. So, you know, if I go to bed, you know, many a night, 3 a.m., I'm still, you know, writing emails and considering conversations I've had or need to have. So I do try and read, because I actually have to concentrate on what I'm doing. It's about the only way I've found to actually switch the brain off. I do a lot of driving. Again, the brain spin. So I find if I, you know, put my head in a book, I actually have to concentrate on that. So look, you know, I really just go with the flow. I try not to get too precious or too concerned about things. I try to worry about what I can control. I can't control other people, what they do, what they say, how they behave. All I can control is how I respond and how I support others around me, how I support my other councillors, how I support the CEO, or how I help him support the staff. To do their role when the attacks are coming. So I don't worry about what other people are doing. All I worry about is what I can control, which is how I respond and how I help others respond.
Yeah. So have you decided whether you will be running again this year? And are you prepared to tell us?
Some days it's yes, some days it's no. I've got some people saying to me, why would you do that to yourself again? And others saying, if you're up for it, please, we really, 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 really need you. So look, I at this point probably, but I reserve the right to change my mind later tomorrow.
Fair enough too. And there's still a few months to go before that. And of course you've got a busy mayoral term still in front of you. What would life after council, let's say you don't get re-elected, you don't put your hand up, or at some point down the track you make that decision, what is life after council going to look like for you?
Opportunities continue to knock on my door. When I stood for council and they said, we'd like to be mayor, and I rattled off all the things I was doing. I was teaching at Longanong at the time, and I rattled off all the things. They said, you're going to have to give some of them up. I said, don't worry, I've already started unwinding some things. Look, because of the skills I've got, and people know I call it as I see it, you know, you'll never die wondering what I think, because, you know, I'll say it how it is, or how I see it. So, you know, I'm really not concerned. I've got the farm to run. I've got friends who keep saying they want me to go and visit. I haven't had a holiday pretty much the entire time I've been on council. So I've got friends all over the country and internationally who want me to come and visit. So I don't know. I guarantee boredom is not a word that I understand. I will always find something to do. I'm quite happy in my own space, pottering, doing all the things that I don't have time to do normally. So I honestly don't know, Chris, but what I will say is it will not be in another tier of government.
Right. Okay. So there we go. We can rule out state or federal politics. Well, what about some sort of ongoing involvement in local government? I notice, the department is very keen for people to throw their hat in the ring for monitors, administrators, etc. That we seem to need more of those going forward. Could you see yourself doing those sorts of roles down the track?
Possibly. I hadn't really thought that far ahead. I'm really just focused on where I am and trying to decide what I want to do next. Possibly. I don't know. Maybe even, independent advisor chair for, CEO remuneration committees. Yeah. So I honestly don't know. Maybe.
There we go. We've planted a seed. You can start having a think about that, but hopefully it's some time before you need to fill in too many gaps in your calendar, Robyn.
Thank you. Yes, no. I really don't worry about those things. It just happens. As I said, opportunity. I've only ever applied for a couple of things in my life. Everything else just lands in my lap. So we'll see.
Very good. Look, it's been great to talk with you, and congratulations on what you've achieved in your local government career thus far. All the best for the rest of the term. Is there anything burning that you really want to make sure gets achieved before the end of this current term of the council?
No, look, we've got lots of things happening. We've delivered a lot of projects. We've done a lot of planning and we're finally delivering on those. So we're now chasing funding so we can start to deliver the next plans that are shovel ready. So, and trying to get the next lot being shovel ready. Yeah. So look, childcare, housing, we don't have enough people. So if you know people who are looking for jobs, our region has over 3,000 job vacancies.
Wow.
We don't have enough people. Even if we had all the childcare places and then some, we still don't have enough people for our region. We've got mining coming that are, each mine's going to be 300 plus jobs a year plus associated industries. We have thousands and thousands, the full spectrum of skill level. So, trying to make sure we have the facilities in. So I see council's role as providing the reason for people to stay here on weekends. Give them the things to do out of hours. We have the jobs to give them the thing to do during the week. So I see council's role as providing the facilities and the infrastructure and the amenities and the services that they need to make their life complete. If they're heading down the highway every weekend, we don't keep them. If we can give them a reason to start staying here for weekends, they stay. If they stay more than 2 years, they stay 5 years, they stay 10 years. That helps our community, our sporting clubs, all of our associations. So to me, that's what council's role is, to provide those things for the after hours, including, the childcare and the housing, even though we don't provide them, we're the conduit to help them happen. But yes, so we're madly trying to upgrade sporting facilities, bike paths, walking paths, all sorts of public amenities is something that I see as a really significant role for council, because a lot of our infrastructure, like many other places, is starting to get old and tired, and it needs a refurb, a refresh to meet the current standards of the regulations and legislation, but also the community expectations as well. Just because we choose to live in a country area doesn't mean we're second and third class citizens. Our facilities need to be equally on par with those further down the highway.
You've described a challenge that most rural and regional communities across the country are facing, of course. So you're all competing, I guess, in that sense, which makes that work that you do to provide facilities and services all the more important.
It does, yes. I know we're not on our own, but it's something that we will continue to work hard to deliver for our community.
It's been lovely to speak with you, Robyn. Thank you so much for your time. As I said, all the best, and hopefully we'll see you again on a future VLGA Connect.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Take care.
That's Councillor Robyn Gulline, the Mayor of Horsham Rural City Council, joining us today on Local Leaders.